Hey, this is JR, the Boxing Junkie, coming to you from Baltimore. Before I start, I want to give a shout out to J. Kodo, Joseph Jojo. Please check out his channel, alright? He don't get involved in the bullshit. It's strictly boxing. And he's one of the greatest minds on YouTube right now, Joseph Jojo. But this goes out to Black September, who asked me some questions in the comment section. And I just can't be typing some bullshit in my phone right now because I got a fucking surgery on my hand, and I just don't feel like hitting it one button at a time and all that shit. So it's just easier for me to make a video. So one of the questions is, are we okay with what today's champions are doing? Now, of course I'm not okay with what these champions are doing. In their personal life, let's go with Tyson Fury, for example, okay? I'm upset when he comes in dressed like Batman and pulls up his gut and starts bragging about how, a fat man beat Klitschko, because that's a black eye for boxing right there, When you can't even, here you are, he would have been the undisputed champion, unified, if the IBF didn't screw him over right when he won his title. So I still consider him, well, until the recent events, I considered him the heavyweight champion of the world, alright? Because that IBF is a fucking crooked ass, corrupt organization. So, what he's doing in his personal life, I don't give a shit about the cocaine. But when it gets involved with VADA and interferes with our boxing, that's when I got a problem, So now it's a vague question, so I'm gonna answer several different ways here, because it can also be taken on how I feel about what they're doing competition-wise, which is bullshit. Danny Garcia, cherry picking. Alright, picking gloves is something that needs to stop. If you want your opponent to, and I hate to bring up his name, but we all know who I'm talking about. The fighter from Vegas, as Jay Cotto says. I don't give a shit about your hands, alright? If your hands are hurt, put pillows on them. But it don't mean your opponent has to wear pillows. We need a standard size boxing ring. We need a standard glove. If you have a doctor's note that permits you to use another glove, you can use it, but do not put your opponent into it. So yeah, I'm very upset with what these champions are doing. And also, I'd be careful using the word champion, because to me, a lot of these guys are titleists. It depends on who you beat for your belt. And the lineal championships from Ring Magazine are worthless. I don't even count them bullshit. Because according to them, Canelo Alvarez is still the lineal champion. So go figure that shit out. Excuse me, let me spark up. Okay. Question 2. Are we okay with top boxers not testing their limits? Alright. I cut Anthony Joshua some slack because he won the belt somewhat early, okay? But after 2 fights at champion, he's ready for anybody. Top boxers have to test their limits, or we do not know that they're the top boxers. Now, this is going to tie into another question of yours. So, a top boxer has to test his limits. You're not a top boxer if you're not. And I'm very sick of them not being in control of who they fight. You know, this is why Al Heyman is bad for boxing. How many times have we seen an Al Heyman card where it would say, alright, this is just an example, okay? But it'll say on a commercial, Thurman, alright, Errol Spence, and then another fight, a third fighter, right? But we're not seeing them fight each other. We're going to see Thurman fight a bum, we're going to see Errol Spence fight a bum, and so on. So, now, Thurman's a bad example because he is testing his limits. I want fighters to do what Thurman's doing. You know? Not what Danny Garcia's doing. Okay, question 3. Should we get used to the new era of boxing? Boxing is like a sexy female, okay? We can say what we want her to do, but that bitch is gonna do what she wants to do. So, we kind of got to get used to the new era of boxing, but at the same time, I'm their boss, okay? You're their boss. We pay their motherfucking bills. So, like Canelo Alvarez, Liam Smith, I was upset with T Street because I found out he said, I don't stream no fights. I pay for these fights. Well, get the fuck off YouTube then if you want to suck off these sore ass fighters. Because I put my foot down. I'm streaming these motherfucking fights. Stream these fights. Download the app, live stream. Download the Periscope app. You can watch the fights live as they're going on. You know, right over your phone, your tablet, or your smart TV. Just download those apps right there, and you'll be good. Because, you know, the hardcore fan makes up a small portion of the sport, but we make up enough to where Canelo Alvarez, the numbers that came out on his pay-per-view, around 225,000, we don't believe that for 1 minute, okay? Not 1 minute. I know more people that ordered Golovkin versus Lemieux than ordered Canelo versus Liam Smith. So, boxing's gonna do what it wants to do, but when we put our foot down, we are gonna get the fights that we want, okay? So, we just gotta stay, tough on these fucking fighters, man. We can't just sit there and let them do what they want. Like Danny Garcia, for instance. I will not watch his next fight. Okay? I don't care that it's on network TV. But as far as pay-per-view fighters go, we got a good control on not ordering these fights if we don't like what's being presented to us. So, let me get on to the next question here. Is top boxer and champ being competitive overrated? Well, the champions we see are not being competitive. They're cherry picking. Top boxers being competitive is not overrated at all. You know, being competitive is never overrated. Being competitive is how we find out how great you are. That's how you build a legacy. You gotta be competitive. And in order to be competitive, you gotta fight the top fighters in your weight class. Okay, so the next question is, should the top 10 fighters fight each other? I believe if you're a champion, you shouldn't fight below the top 5. Alright, so you clean out them. If we look at the ratings on BoxRec, which I try my best to stay off of, everything comes off the top of my head. So forgive me if I get something wrong, because it's a challenge to me to not look at BoxRec, you know? Because it only explains a little tiny bit. It doesn't give you the specifics of the fight. So now let's see here how I can put this out. Alright, if you're the champion, fight the top 3 fighters in your sanctioning the title that you're holding, okay? When you're done with them, it should be mandatory that you fight the next champion. Okay, if you got the WBC belt, you should move on to the WBO, the WBA, etc. You shouldn't be fighting the number 9 fighter if you're the champion. And I'm going to leave it at that. If you do want to fight a man below that, okay, it should not be a title fight. What Danny Garcia is doing should not be a title fight, period. So, therefore, he should get paid chump change. And, you know, if you're the champion, you should fight the champions. If you can't fight the champions right away, you should be fighting the top 3 competition. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, the final question, Black September. Are we okay with today's fighters only fighting twice a year? Okay. I remember when Keith Thurman first started getting popular, I believe he fought 5 times in 1 year. I'm okay with that. When you're young, you gotta fight. I mean, let's just consider that Mike Tyson unified all the titles within 10 months. Okay? So, it does depend on the fights you've been involved in. I'll give you an example, okay? We just seen a marvelous fight, one of my favorite fights. Francisco Vargas versus Orlando Salido. A war, a fucking war out there at, I want to say the Staples Center, but it was at the StubHub Center. Okay, it would be wrong for Vargas to fight twice in 1 year after fighting Takashi Miura and getting into a war, then fighting Orlando Salido. You know, I don't agree with fighting twice in a year when you're fighting like that. You should take one fight like that, take off for a goddamn year almost, you know? Maybe take off for 8 months, then go back into training camp. But when you fight a fight where you don't have a mark on you, yeah, it's bullshit when these stars are fighting twice a year. That is not right, okay? We should have seen Keith Thurman back already, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you need to fight more than twice a year. But if it's a brutal fight, we got to give them a pass on that. Now, I want to thank Black September. Anybody who watches the channel is welcome to ask me questions, and I'll respond with a video. Black September just didn't even request a video, but I wanted to do one anyways because this would have been a lot to put in the goddamn comment section. This is JR coming to you from Baltimore. Peace out.